It's
Oh
Rocket
yeah, look at that
Jockey.
flaming skull.
Yeah, the flaming skull.
Just look at that thing rocking out. It's having a good time. It's on fire. It's got a broken fighter, what is it, a pilot helmet, whatever you want to call that.
That would make a rad tattoo, I'm just gonna say.
There is a story behind that skull, and the story is that it was invented by marketing, and it was not passed through to the actual dev team. When they saw it, they were just like, what the shit? This is not our game. So that's why if you look very closely, the top part of it, the hat and the glasses, they were added to it by the dev team because they did not choose that as their
Interesting.
logo.
Who chose it for them exactly?
Yeah, it was just like marketing was like, well, the box is gonna have this flaming skull that looks like a stupid tattoo on it, and if you've played the game, and we'll look at the game very shortly, you'll know that it doesn't make any sense. It really doesn't thematically fit in the game very well. At least not the, like, you know, it's very almost gentlemanly, I guess, the way the game works. It has a different feel to a giant flaming skull. Anyway, I'm KaL.
And this is Snarboo.
I'm Bobinator.
And this is, as I just said before, as loudly as I could, this is Rocket Jockey, a late 1996 release from Sega Soft. 1996, you know. Lay it on me. When was Quake released?
1996. Like mid-1996, around August.
Yeah, this game was around October, so not a bad little effort from the development team here to get a it's 3D. This game is fully 3D. Everything in it is 3D, I believe. There's nothing that's really 2D in it. You can see it. These little demos that have been playing in front of us. It's 3D. There's a lot of 3D in this game, and it was not too long after Quake. And that was actually had a huge downside, because unlike Quake, which I believe is incredibly well optimized, Carmack really pulled it off with the
well, it runs in DOS for starters. This is a Windows game.
Yes, runs on Windows 95 release. So this game required a Pentium of some description to get working, which in 1996 was a humongous ask. So once you get into the game, I do apologize for this. I believe you're probably seeing this ugly bar at the top left of the screen.
I'm not seeing any bars.
You're not? I have an ugly bar.
No.
Okay, so
You're not
that's
seeing
weird.
either, so we're good there.
works for me. I don't care if you guys can't see an ugly bar. If you do run this game, I'm running it on Windows 7 quite impressively.
Oh, you're playing it natively?
Yeah, I'm playing it natively
Yeah,
in
it
Windows
runs
7.
natively.
I'll explain how to get that running a little later. But you'll have this ugly bar at this particular moment for some reason. Anyway, you get to pick your character. There is no difference between the characters other than their visual look. I don't think they have different voices either, or different animations. I like to pick the Rocket Man here, because that's the rocket symbol of the actual developer. You know, Rocket Science Games, as it says here. Once you pick a character, you get to pick your rocket, as such. You don't start with all the rockets, though, and the rockets do actually have different stats. They doesn't actually tell you what the stats are, you just kind of have to play them. But I will take the rocket I have unlocked, and the way you unlock them is by getting on top of other riders' rockets, and then finishing the level while riding that particular rocket. Apparently you can also
That's
unlock
kind of
them...
an interesting unlock system.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. You can also unlock them by getting really far in the game, I believe. So if you manage to not get one for a long time, it will eventually sort of give you a mulligan on it and let you use it. But since they're entirely better than the other rockets available, you pretty much want to upgrade to them as soon as you can. So as you can see from the game here, we have 3 modes: Ball, War, and Race. And yeah, you get a little graphic that plays that sort of indicates what you're in for when you pick the different things.
I assume all of these are self-explanatory.
Yeah, there's nothing really confusing about them. There's a little bit of an issue. with ball. That's a little bit confusing, but we'll get to that later. We'll start with war because that's the... I guess you could say that's the way the game is sort of meant to be played. Hold on a sec. Alright, I'm gonna have to go back to the main menu because I have a bug in this game. Just give me a second.
Uh-oh.
It's not a big
bug?
problem. Basically, I think it's just related to my install, or the fact that this has got a fan patch applied to it, but my game does not let me unlock levels in War past the second series of levels. So, for whatever... Oops, it didn't work. So I'm trying to enter a... just entering a cheat, and the cheat is level me, is that you just type it in at this particular point in the game, and then you will unlock the full level set, which is convenient because, frankly, some of the levels are pretty terrible, so it's nice that there's a level cheat that you can just get everything straight away. But yeah, I have a...
So, you said this was a late 96 release, right?
There we go. Yes.
Do you think this would have been better if it had been released a year later, like early 97, say, or mid 97, like before Quake 2 had come out?
Sega Soft made a really bad decision on this game. Because it launched without its promised LAN support. So you could play it multiplayer for several months until sometime in 1997. So that was a humongous blunder, because the few people that actually bought the game, they couldn't play the game with other people, and what you'll learn from this game is that the AI is not amazing, which is not surprising considering it's from 1996.
So, this game didn't have internet support either?
It did have TCP/IP
This would have been before
support,
that.
but it didn't have a connection to Sega's One network or anything. It was just purely LAN or TCP/IP. And I don't know if the TCP/IP support worked before the patch.
Jeez, that was kind of brutal.
Well, if the LAN didn't work, I would be
Yeah.
shocked if the TCP/IP support worked.
So basically, LAN
Wow,
I've
doesn't
played
work.
this game before, so this is...
Yeah,
Sorry.
so we should probably talk about the game that's going on. This is one of the early levels that I've just booted up just to, because some of the later levels can get really, really dickish, so I just wanted to start with a nice, clear level to sort of show how the game actually runs.
Well, it already seems pretty dickish because you've been torn off your cycle like once already, and then you got slammed into the wall like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, that happens, but you know, that's the fun of Rocket Jockey. So
So
first
how do
things...
you pull people off their rocket?
Oh, you just
You
gotta
have to hit him with the tether.
You just gotta hit him with the tether. So first things first, due to me recording this game, I am experiencing a problem with the controls, where they kind of... the latency between pressing a button and it actually activating varies between immediate input and about 1 to 1.5 seconds after I press the button. So
Oh,
if I seem
jeez.
to make some really stupid action where I seem like I'm reacting at sloth pace, it's probably because it didn't activate when I pressed it and then activated significantly later. It's a bug that's supposed to have been caused by the 1.1 patch, which adds LAN support, but it doesn't seem to come up all the time. It only comes up sometimes, depending on, I don't know, which way the wind's blowing, but I'm pretty sure opening any video recording software, the game's just like, nah, I can't do it. You're gonna have to just get it. So, yeah, I'm gonna be playing pretty badly. That's not entirely indicative of how the game plays. The actual responsiveness in the game is really good. Controls are very responsive. Everything picks up inputs immediately. But it's helped by the fact that I'm running this on a system that was not dreamed of back when this game came out, so... actually
So how well do you think it ran at the time itself, though? Do you think it would have run this smoothly? Even if you had the target specs?
If you had the upper end of the target specs, you probably could have got it running this well. I did kind of play it in sometime in 97, 98, I played the demo of this one. And it ran maybe a little bit slower than this, just a little bit. So, yeah, if you had the cash, you probably could have ran it at something approaching this speed. But, you know, yanked the guy off. There we go. So, the goal of this game in war is to kill everyone else. That's the goal. You can see my
it's just
health.
plain deathmatch, really.
Yeah, you can see my health down the bottom left, and you can see my temperature. Now, the temperature is the car's health, and I do believe that they can blow up. I didn't actually blow them up recently, but I think they blow up and cause extreme damage to you. And you want to avoid that as absolutely as much as possible, because you're going to have a really hard time surviving if you don't have a rocket bike.
Can you take any bike, or does it have to be yours?
You can take any bike, which is part of the fun of the game. As you've noticed, sometimes when I get pulled, I get dragged around the map. Well, this game had up to, I believe, 6 player support in multiplayer, so you could have 6 people all at once flying around this arena in rockets, pulling each other off the rockets, and just, you know, generally a lot of craziness going on. And yes, you could take someone else's bike, you could pull them off theirs, and then jump off your own bike by hitting the spacebar. You can fly off your bike. And, yeah, you could nick someone else's bike. I've run out of time because I was explaining too much, which is, kind of one of the problems of the actual single-player experience. Since the AI is not particularly great, it uses a lot of artificial constraints to make it tougher on the player. Which is very typical for the period, but still kind of disappointing. Because it really means that you really, really, really want multiplayer support, and it didn't launch with it. And the quality of the game is high enough that I think we could have gotten away with releasing this game sometime in '97 and no one would have batted it. Probably would have had more people that played it and ran it at full speed. And it would have had multiplayer support from the get-go. Could have built a community, could have been a lot better. But, you know.
That's typical of Sega to release something well before it should have been released.
Yeah, it was...
And then not being able to support it in time.
It was a pretty
By
bad...
the way, can you play this over Hamachi or anything equivalent?
I reckon you could get it running now on Higachi. I wouldn't mind giving it a shot sometime. But
I'd be
there's
interested.
no guarantee that the controls won't go super crap because you're running a program. Either way, so yeah, I've been playing the game for a bit and I hope it's kind of clear how the game works, but essentially you get to control your rocket, and your rocket doesn't control, it controls very well in terms of responsiveness, but actually maneuvering it around is not particularly efficient. It has a very long turning arc. So what you want to do is you have 2 grappling hooks, and they're triggered by pressing the A or the F button, and then when they hook onto something, you spin around it based on a constraint, which makes this game doubly impressive, because essentially it has physics and crap, you know? Very cool.
Yeah, it's got a limited physics system.
Yeah, and we'll get into the physics and how much you can do with them in a second. As you might have been able to see, I actually just tied this guy to one of the columns. I've blown off my bike, because I am better, I swear. It's just, I'll walk up to him, we'll look at this guy. Look at this sucker. Look at him, struggling to get to his own bike. What an asshole. And then you take it. But yeah.
Wow, that's
that's
dickish.
just...
It is very dickish. So, yeah, you can tie other people to the various pylons in the level. But the catch here is that you can knock out someone rather than kill them. You can knock them out by quartering them, I guess is the term. I'm not quite sure. It's basically you tie them to both sides of a pylon. If that makes sense. I'll try and do it, and I'll show you what happens. I killed that guy. Well, it's gonna be hard to tie him up now that he's dead. The game doesn't really let you interact with the dead bodies because there's no points in it, so it doesn't let you do it. But yeah, so you do have an alternate win condition, which is rather than, rather than kill them, which takes a lot longer, you can simply tie them up to things. And the way you tie things up to them is you fire one end into the thing you want to tie up, the other side of your grappling hook to a different thing, and then you either press both buttons at once, or you press a dedicated tie-up button. Which, either way works. The dedicated tie-up button probably works a little better on the keyboard, because you don't have to worry about key conflicts, but it works great on a joystick. If you manage to get to play this game with a joystick, you can bind the grappling hook to both triggers, and it feels really good, because you're essentially one-to-oneing the system. And we'll go to a little bit of a later stage now, to see kind of how the game gets dickish. So the actual controls are laid out in a somewhat unusual fashion, because obviously the system plays a little bit more. You move around with the arrow keys. That's how you actually move. You'll notice my rocket has changed this fat blue thing, because I finished the previous stage on the fat blue thing. You grappling hook these different power-ups in order to add them to the bike, and you can see that they now stick out the side to the power-ups bike. Yeah, this is the controls, as I was saying. Cursor keys to move left and right. When you're on the ground, up actually makes you jump. No, up makes you run forward, sorry, and down makes you jump upwards, and that's to help you dodge any grappling hooks. You can do a limited amount of up and down movement when you're on the rocket, which gives you a nice feeling of any movement. It lets you dodge things like these. Grappling hooks are not quite like they're not one-to-one perfect. They're kind of more. They let you do whatever you want. If it kind of gets near an object, it'll usually snap you. And I am getting dragged around like an asshole. Ugh. Alright, we're back. Now, down the very bottom, you can see the radar, which is extremely useful. And this shows you where bikes are and where enemies are. I am almost dead. This game doesn't pull any punches. They grab you, you're in a lot of trouble. Oh, I'm dead. I'm super dead. So, it gets significantly harder very quickly. And yes, you can pull the bombs around, fling bombs at your opponents, steal their bikes, all of these things. And, I mean, in terms of the war mode, this is pretty much it. As you can see, there are different obstacles and stuff that get involved. There's these really unbelievably frustrating obstacles that can actually trigger off the end. They're so incredibly annoying. I absolutely hate them. They're things that automatically grab. They're like random grapplers at once that grab them. This is not the best level to show them off because they don't really trigger on this level. But some levels they can be should not have driven in so long.
Can you just rope anybody off their bike anytime, or?
That is correct. And you can also steal other people's bikes. Now, you can actually get someone off a bike when you're on foot. It's just extremely difficult.
How do you do that?
You have to actually throw yourself at them with the spacebar to move forward. Because then you become kind of like a particle tackling jumping man, and you can pull them off their bike. And that was me driving into the wall because my buttons are not working as well as they need to be.
So what causes that issue? Can you say it has something to do with a conflict between the game and a program or something?
Apparently the issue didn't exist in the original release of the game, but the patch causes this issue to it doesn't arise all the time, but if I'm using the recording program to record any video, it pretty much immediately causes the problem and I can't fix it. So the game runs fine, except if I'm trying to show people that the game runs fine, and then it stops running fine.
So it's Schrodinger's game here, essentially.
Yeah.
Looks alright to me. I'm not seeing any problems.
Yes, you can't see the problems because what happens at the moment is sometimes when I press, say, grappling hook, it fires the grappling hook a second later. Whereas the grappling
And there's
hook...
no way to know when it's going to do that because other times it responds just fine.
Yes. So if it looks like I timed it perfectly, I probably did. And if it looks like I just sort of missed it by a wide margin, it's probably because the game was penalizing me for no reason. And yeah, you can do a lot of things. Again, this isn't the best map to show a couple of other features, so I picked a dud map, but see if I can pull off a couple of tricks here. Basically, you can actually tie the rope up to, like between two piles. There we go. You can tie two things
Right,
up.
I see why you'd want to do that, because then it creates sort of a trip line or a...
Yeah, you can create like a real-time organic trip line that other bikers can drive into and then get knocked off their bike. And then there's these...
A lot of really clever mechanics they thought of with this sort of system.
Yeah, this is one of those games where they came up with an excellent idea, or the creator, Sean Callahan, I think his name is, came up with a brilliant idea. He said he based it on the Star Wars speeder bikes, and I think the grappling hook from Batman is what he kind of... He saw those two things within close proximity of each other, and he was like, yes, that is a video game. And then he made it.
Well, it's funny because it wouldn't be until, what, Just Cause 2 that we saw this sort of grappling mechanic again?
Yeah,
like,
it's very
Is there any
impressive.
other game that did it the same way? Where you could tie things together?
Yeah, and you can tie things together really well, and it works, like, quite frequently. It's not... It doesn't bug out, really. It can bug out occasionally, but it's not too often. You can usually get away with it. Whoop, I killed the game. I was just saying it doesn't bug out, and then it crashes because it bugged out. But that's okay. Welcome to my desktop
I'm
again.
sure something happened with the physics system that wasn't supposed to happen.
A guy was carrying my bike, and he drove into me, and I jumped into him and knocked him off his bike, and I think that was too much for the program.
Well, what probably was happening is it wasn't sure who was trying to sit on the bike, because there was a bike right behind him too, so it's like fighting for ownership over the bike, basically. Theoretically, I don't know. I have no idea what could have caused the game to crash.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm running it on Windows 7. It's probably not the best idea for stability to run a game from 1996 that originally ran on Windows 95 to run it on Windows 7, but it works more or less, works most of the time, so we can handle that. It'll be alright.
That flaming skulls, wow.
Yeah, they absolutely hate that logo, and I can understand why, because as you've seen from the game, it doesn't exactly have that feel to it. So
it's like retro, it's like a retro sci-fi, retro futuristic sort of thing.
It's a very unique
Retro
style
futurism.
that no one really has gone through. Because it's kind of steampunk-ish, but not quite. It's that very distinctive flair to it.
It's almost got an Art Deco look to it, kind of like what BioShock was doing.
Yeah, I'd say
but
BioShock
not
is probably
quite.
one of the closest games to having this sort of style to it. Okay, so this is racing, and I am not going to be able to do this. This is purely to demonstrate what racing in this game is, but there is no freaking way I'm going to be able to pull this off. Because racing is hard even when you don't have slightly unresponsive controls. You see, the problem is, the goal of racing is you're supposed to get between the, you're supposed to hit the correct pylons in the correct order, either grappling onto them, or the ones that are in twos, you're supposed to fly between them. So, I mean, mechanically it makes sense. Like, it makes perfect sense from a mechanical perspective. I managed to do that because that was the training level, so it was much more forgiving than you would otherwise expect. But As far as the game's concerned, the AI basically is... How did I get the top score? Come on, guys. Do better at your own game. Basically, the AI can virtually never finish a track. It just can't do it because the levels are too complicated, the AI is really not built to race, and the races themselves can be basically, as you can expect, the fact that you have to perfectly hit a... There you go, the AI didn't even get to the first pylon. That's the level of AI that we have to deal with here. This is trespasser levels of AI, basically.
So you're saying they're having too many emotions at once, and they just don't know how to feel about that?
They don't know how to get through the pylons. But the thing about this one is, like, you know, in your normal racing game, when you drive in a racing game, if you turn slightly too early, you just sort of bump into something, or you graze the wall. You know, like, most of the time your car's not going to explode and fly off a cliff and then you'll lose immediately. But in this game, because you have to hit these pylons, if you miss a pylon, you just fly past everything, you kind of you have to flip back around, you gotta cycle all the way back to where you need to be. If you try and go too fast, because you can speed up. There's 3 speeds in this game. There is W, which makes you go maximum speed. You probably can't hear it, but it makes a slight, like, afterburnery sound when you press W. There's the basic speed, which is you're not pressing anything. And then there's brake, which makes your character stand up and brake the rocket. But if you notice, your rocket temperature actually raises when you brake, which is hugely amusing that basically braking this game is so discouraged that it will probably kill you.
Well, you're on a rocket, so have you ever tried to stop one of those things?
Yeah, it's like the rocket
pretty
overheats.
difficult.
And you can see from this mode that using the rope to tie pylons together would be extremely dangerous in this mode, because you could throw down a rope and then rope your opponent. And I'm just going to demonstrate that. Just do it real quick. Hopefully it works. Yes, we did.
How long do ropes last once you place them? Do they eventually fade away?
I think if someone hits one, they are destroyed. When they're...
There's probably a limit on how many can appear in the level, too, if I had to guess.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what the limit is. I've never really experimented with the limit. As you can see, the AI are going the wrong way. Yeah.
You think it would have been... You think it would have been kind of simple to program a simple... Or not simple, but... You think it would have been feasible to have a track that they could follow or something, like a path noting system that would tell them where to go and how to move between things.
Well, the game was rushed out to get out by the end of '96, so I feel that if
that's
they were
again
ever,
typical Sega.
Yeah, if they were ever going to put AI for the cars, they didn't have time to put proper AI for the race mode.
I take it this mode is really easy to finish. The AI can't do pathfinding.
The AI can't beat you, but that doesn't mean you won't have to race against the time trial, because you do have a set amount of time before you will lose automatically in this mode. Firstly, you can see down the bottom, there is the timer for the level, which is the generic level timer. And that is counting down at the moment. I've only got 3 minutes left. But
It's counting up, actually.
Oh, sorry. I didn't actually check. Crap. Well, you do have a par time. If you notice when the level started up, it says, like, you have this long to get this many things done. So, you do have a limit to how fast or slow you can go through this track. So you're really fighting against the system that the game employs. What gate? I'm missing a gate. I must have missed a gate.
Yeah, it looks like you did.
Yeah, you can't really tell. There's no direct... I don't think it
The map
tells
doesn't
you.
tell
It
you
does
where
tell
gates
you.
are?
You've got the waypoint down the bottom. Yeah. See, my radar is covered up by my microphone shield, so I can't actually see the radar at the moment. So, yeah, but, you know, if you get caught in the wrong place, you can lose a lot of time. There is a slight benefit to this mode. You can't easily get separated from your bike. And it's true of this mode and the... I win! Yay! But see, I didn't get the qualifying time. The qualifying time for this is a massive 2 minutes 30. So I needed to be about 2 minutes faster in order to finish this race. And
You
actually
win,
pass it.
and also lost.
Yeah, so that doesn't count as beating that level. You have to try again, I believe, in order to
You think they could have just done it like most racing games do it and just have you be in first or second place?
If you look closely, you'll notice that a lot of the high scores there were over the par time. So thanks, guys.
Right.
Let's just have a look at one of the later circuits. 'Cause, you know, I don't have the level select on this one. Hold on. Let's try again. I'm sorry I have to keep entering this code, but it kind of bugs out and forgets what level. It's kind of like it's not writing properly, except it was writing properly up until a certain point, and then it bugs out. But I don't know why I'm really describing this, but it will bug out when you pass a certain level. It'll just be like, actually, you didn't beat that level. I'm going to retreat back to this previous level. But not always, only when you beat certain levels. It's very confusing and broken. So let's go to you can see that there are ticks on some of these levels, like it thinks I've beaten them. I have no idea. But I haven't beaten any of these levels, so we'll see what... A level with confusion in the title. Ooh, the background's different. Nice.
Confusion Central.
And I can see why it's called Confusion Central. Holy crap. I am very confused. The pylon style...
For some reason, this reminds me of the bonus stage from Sonic 3.
I can see that.
The blue spheres thing, I don't know why.
As you can clearly see... Oh, you can actually see these freaking horrible assholes that pull you off your bike. You can see them shooting me. These auto-targeting, like, grappling gun things that just exist in the level. They're tremendous assholes. They're the worst kind of thing.
Why do they exist? Like, why do they have those little robots?
They clearly exist just to make the game artificially harder, because the AI is not going to be able to beat you. So, they're kind of really frustrating. Wish they didn't exist, because they sort of... They are 100% predictable. They're just really, really fucking annoying to deal with. Also, they sometimes hit you and sometimes they miss, and it's a little hard to predict. As you can see, when I get pulled off, the game is actually firing a rope to prevent me from getting too far from my bike, which is really generous. That exists in both this mode and the football mode. The downside is that if the enemy time it just right, they can still grab you after the rope is disabled and drag you really far away. So, kind of annoying, but... You know, better than nothing. They thought about the problem, and they kind of addressed it. But yeah, like...
What was the par time for the stage? Because I can't see you beating this in less than, like, 5 to 10 minutes.
I didn't check the par time, but if I had to guess, it's probably something like 2 minutes. I mean, my controls are not as responsive as they really need to be. This game is difficult to master, even with... good controls, but because of the slight problem I have with the controls, it's a little bit harder than it should be, and in this game, a little bit harder than it should be is basically impossible. And you can see I'm constantly getting pulled off my bike by these asshole machines that are just humongous assholes. There's no way to disable them, they just exist perpetually, and they are horrible, horrible things.
Is there any way to dodge them, or is it just purely random when they just tear you off your bike?
I'll spin around one so we can get a good look at one, so that you'll sort of understand what's going on. Just gotta get... There we go, there's one. You can see him here. You can see how he's got kind of a central point where he exists. If you get pulled off, if you go in front of his, like, cone of vision, he will try and hit you. And...
I see.
If you time it right...
What's even worse about it is that there's specific pylons with those things on them.
Yeah, so you basically are encouraged to get away from those pylons. But that's extremely hard for me to do with my control system at the moment. And if you time it right, you can avoid them if you, like, hit another pylon and then change your direction as you pass them. But that's a lot of effort, you know, like a lot of difficulty, just to sort of inflate the challenge of this game. Which is is already a challenging game. I'm only on lap 1 still. There are 2 laps for this level. And I am getting pulled around. But more importantly than anything else, I'm almost dead.
Well, it's good that you still have health in this mode to remind you of your brief time on this planet.
Yeah, and you will die, and the game will be like, well, you're dead, you can't finish the race, too bad. Which is a fair enough reason not to be able to finish a race, it's just gonna be crap, because you can't really do that much. And this is one of the bigger issues with the game, like, in its, you know, as good as the game is, as good as the idea is, there is a serious lack of balance in these later stages. Because not all stages have as many of these asshole pylon pulling things, so the ones that don't have that are purely skill and timing based, really. So they're much easier to actually play. But, you know.
Right now... Sorry.
Yeah, I didn't have anything more to add to the pylons. They just make me so angry. I'm steaming at how annoying these pylons are.
So you wouldn't want them to construct additional pylons, is what you're telling me.
I'm gonna cut you. I'm dead, by the way. I died. I got hit, and because the pylons cause damage.
Oh, that joke was so bad it murdered you.
Because when you get pulled off your bike and you land, you take a little bit of damage, which isn't too bad. But when you get pulled off 20 times, you think the power time is 3 minutes 15. There you go, 3 minutes 15 for that stage. Good luck. So that was driving mode. Good luck getting the rockets that are in this mode. I'm not sure if there are rockets exclusive to each mode. I kind of think there are. So good luck with that. And we'll look at ball.
Right now, I'm just wondering if you could conceivably remake this game with any recent games. Like,
I'm so glad you said that.
Would that work?
Because there was a remake from a team. There's been a couple of attempts at remaking the game, but there was a team who were remaking it with an original engine, and they were calling it Sprocket Rocket, but no one's heard anything from them for the last 2.5, 3 years, so there is a playable beta.
It was like Sprocket Maniac or something, I forget the exact name.
Yeah.
But yeah, they released it in 2012 and we've heard nothing since.
And yeah, they were making it. This game is interesting because it exists completely in legal hell, to the extent that no one actually knows who owns the game.
It wouldn't be Sega?
No, apparently not. Because I don't know how that worked, but according to the creator of the game, again, Sean Callahan, he has made ports for the game for the Xbox and the Xbox 360 for his own personal use. But he cannot release them because there's no one to sign off on actually making a re-release of the game.
Okay, somebody needs to get Night Dive on that, because that's kind of their thing.
Supposedly they've gotten the rights to Nulf, so I'm pretty interested to see what they'll do with that. But yeah, it's kind of a shame that so many games from like this period of time, like the mid to late 90s, are just in complete legal hell.
Yeah, and this one, I find it really interesting. I've actually tweeted recently, just mostly complaining specifically relating to this. Nobody knows who owns this game, and there's no legal entity that apparently owns it. So, this game effectively, no one actually owns this game. But
this is true abandonware, basically.
But no one can re-release it. It's just like there doesn't.
You know, in situations like this, I wonder why they don't just release it and then see who steps forward to sue them. Because isn't that the easiest way to determine who the rights holder is?
Well, see, the problem is if you do something like that, like okay, let's say that Sega is like, hey, we actually own the rights to that game. You can't do that. Well, if they do that, then Sega will, they'll send them a cease and desist or sue them or whatever. But then they have to fight it in court, so you do have to pay for lawyers and stuff.
Right.
They're going to be like, well, we own this game, so you can't release it. And then they'll go, well, no, you don't own it. But then you have to take it to court, and then Sega will dig through their documents and dig through and try and discover.
Well, what I mean is, once you get the cease and desist, you can see who owns it and then try to negotiate with
well, see,
that
that's
entity.
the thing. They don't actually know if they own it. They'll just send you a cease and desist.
Right.
Because that's what happened with, as you said, Nolf. Like, No One Lives Forever. Someone probably owns the game. You'll notice I just barely made that. Like, I just barely won. I got 5 out of 5 goals. Yeah, like, they don't know who owns No One Lives Forever. There's, like, 3 companies that claim they own it. And even if one of those companies steps up and says, actually, we own it, a cease and desist is different. It's not illegal. It's not, like, the same as, an actual threat. It's like, you can send a cease and desist even if you don't own a game or a product, but then you open yourself up to being, you know, the person who does own it can be like, wait, that's not yours. But in order for, you have to go to court, I believe, to actually hold up the cease and desist if they don't cease and desist on using it. So there's companies that think, hey, it's a referee. Eat it, referee.
If they were able to wrangle the rights to the original Strife, they could probably get this game, you know, whatever company did Strife. I think that was also Night Dive. And I believe they're also looking at Nolf, like I said earlier. But anyway, if they could figure out Strife, like Strife was a really bad case of this.
Yeah.
If they could figure that one out, they can definitely get Rocket Jockey. If they wanted to, that is. They may not.
Yeah, the thing is, Rocket Jockey, like, No One Lives Forever is so immensely popular, as an older title, that it's worth digging up the rights. Rocket Jockey doesn't have nearly as many fans, so it's a lot harder to get someone to actually...
Well, they've done obscure games before, like, say, Harvester or Power
Harvester
Slave.
is surprisingly not obscure, you know, all things considered.
Yeah, I knew about Harvester long before the re-release was announced. Like, I had seen the boxes for it in the store about the mid-90s or so.
Harvester is one of those games that you may not have heard of it, but it was very well known when it was actually a thing. Because it was just like, hey, because it was a very famous like game for its violence in the FMV period. You know, it was well known at the time. It just dropped off into memory very quickly. Whereas I think Rocket Jockey was not at any point well known. Like, it just never was a game that really got much buzz.
Do Night Dive actually take requests? Is that something you can actually email them about, I wonder?
They probably, I mean, you might be able to. There's no harm in doing so, but there's no guarantee they can also, you know, publish that game or would want to bother getting a hold of the rights, because that can't be cheap. Like, they have to do some sort of cost analysis there and say, well, okay, if we resurrect, say, No One Lives Forever, odds are good we're going to make pretty good return on that, and that's going to pay for our legal fees, you know, the legal wrangling, you know, re-releasing it, patching the game, etc., putting it up on Steam, advertising. Whereas something like this, they might say, well, this is a cool little game, but I doubt we'll get any return on that investment.
Yeah.
That's really the long and the short of it. They saw, like, it was the same case with, I believe, Strife. A lot of people wanted Strife.
Well, Strife is...
Like, that's one of those holy grail sort of lost Doom Engine games, or was for a long time.
Yeah, it was considered one of the best Doom Engine games ever made. Like, that was it. Like, it was just amazingly well made for a Doom Engine game.
Right, and it was a very early example of a first-person shooter / RPG, which wouldn't be seen again until, what, System Shock 2? Deus Ex?
Yeah, I mean, it was a hybrid game and stuff, so it was... I like hitting this referee. It feels good to hit referees.
Is there any reason not to hit the referee?
It's a waste of your time.
Yeah. So it looks like you're getting scored on pretty bad here.
Yeah, and that's the problem with ball mode. Because they make you fight more than one AI opponent at once. And
they're all on the same team?
Yeah, they're on the same team. And while the AI is not necessarily amazing, they have been programmed with the capacity to take a ball and aim it at the goal and release it. And frankly, that's all it needs to be able to score a goal. And given that scoring goals is the goal of the mode, if you have two AIs and they have 5 minutes to just try and score a goal, guess what? They're gonna score some goals. And given that there's only one of you, and it's actually very difficult to score goals in this game, because if the ball is not reasonably lined up with the goal, you have to aim it. And I haven't mentioned this, but you may have noticed it. In this mode, you can only hold on to things for so long.
Yeah, there's a time limit on it. I noticed I kept watching you launch the ball earlier, and I'm like, the game must only let you hold on to the ball for so long then.
Yeah, like the different, you have a timer for holding on to things in the main game as well, in the war mode, but I think it's more forgiving. In this mode, you can't hold on for the ball for a very long amount of time. It's not too short. I think it's the same amount of time that you can jockey a pilot, but because you're constantly dropping the ball, if you can't get a shot, you have to sort of try and hit it with the other rope, and it's very, very difficult to get it right. Quite challenging. And if you grab a AI character, you only hold on to them for a second, so you can't very easily remove an AI from the game for very long, because you grab them, they get pulled off their bike, and then they get shot with their rope to stop them from getting removed from their bike too easily. And then they get back on their bike, and you've wasted time, and while you're messing around with one AI, the other AI has scored a goal, and it's tricky. Now, you also can score on any goal, which makes things even harder for the player, because it means that you can't just defend your goal. You have to basically stop the AI from scoring, and they can score on any goal. And if there's two AIs and they're roaming around the map, you basically physically can't stop them from scoring goals. So, yeah, you have to be really freaking good.
So you get dunked on, basically, is what you're telling me.
Yeah, again, if you've got, like, good amount of luck, you might be able to pull it off. You know, it's one of those things where it's not exactly skill, it's a mix of skill and luck. And if you take the effort to really learn how the, because there are physics, as we mentioned before, quite a lot of physics in this game. Very large amount for a game from '96. Very impressive amount. Also why it required a computer from 1997 to run. But yeah, it's tough. You'll notice that I tried to find a level that had it, and this level does have them. The game actually has a few different ball types. This one is the football, like the American football kind of thing. Or
yeah.
It's like a tube cylinder thing, it's different.
It's like a pigskin kind of looking it's got a pigskin texture on it. Although it's more like a donut or something really weird.
Yeah, it's a little bit odd. But,
hey, you scored. That's pretty cool.
I scored, and they scored immediately after because they're the AI and they're assholes. But yeah, and there's a tire as well, which is really cool because the tire acts more like a hockey puck and it slides along the ground. So that's pretty cool, you know. The mode works. A lot of these modes are modes that would work really well in multiplayer.
Which the game conveniently didn't launch with, or rather it didn't work out of the box.
Yeah, and Sega had promised reviewers at the time, because that's what you do. No, it's gonna launch with it. It'll launch with it, day one patch, it'll be ready, it'll be done, it'll be great. No, it wasn't. So, yeah. They should have delayed it.
Well, at least you don't have to download like a 13 gigabyte first day patch. I guess that's the one thing. You just had to wait, what, like 6 months?
Yeah,
before you
something
could play,
like 3 to 4
online.
months, I think, before you could play the game in the way that it really wanted to be played. On the upside, this game does have a multiplayer spawn. That's really good. You can install this game on multiple computers, and then you only have to have the disc in the one computer in order for it to run, I believe.
The host, probably, yeah.
Yes.
That'd probably make it pretty easy to set up if everyone had a Machi.
Well, I mean, if you were to try and play it online now, you could just have the CD. It's fine. But yeah, you could play it multiplayer without everyone having the CD. And if you've been paying attention, when I've done something really good in this game, your character gets a little animation. They throw their hands in the air, or they do a backflip or something, and that's nice. It's more nice stuff that just happens. But, yeah, there's some crippling problems, especially with playing this game in single player, is the real issue with this one.
Well, it's probably not a game you're meant to play single player, I'm assuming.
The single player exists, and obviously it had to exist. God, imagine releasing a multiplayer-only game in 1996. Unless you were Neverwinter Nights, I don't think you would have had much chance.
Pretty sure
And you're
game
talking the
has single
AOL
player.
version of Neverwinter too.
Yes, I am. Like, multiplayer only is a real risky bet, especially for this kind of game where you're playing like...
Well, it's always been risky, that's the funny thing, but you keep seeing companies chasing that dragon.
Yeah. Like, the crazy thing about this particular game is this game would totally work as a, like a freemium style game. I could see this working amazingly as a freemium style game. You've got all these different bikes, all these different characters, you could outfit your character in a bunch of different ways, huge amount of levels, all these gameplay styles, you could have, you know, 12 or 20 player matches. This game would actually work really well in a modern context. Finding people to actually play it, that would be more of a struggle, because it's not a game that immediately stands out to people and be like, oh yeah, I'd play that. But it's really fun. When it works, it's really fun. I didn't finish the controls. You can also actually control your view so that you can put your view in front of you and stuff, which is kind of nice.
Oh, so you can do it in first person, that's kind of nice.
Not first person. There's no first person. As far as I know, you need to have a thing. But you can rotate your view around 360, and that's done with the Q and E keys. You notice just at the end there, one of the other characters got knocked out. You can kill the other players in this mode, and if you're really lucky, you can get the computer killed within like a minute or two, and then you might actually stand a chance. Not sure what happens if you kill the other player. I assume the game just keeps going, and you just have to score the requisite amount of goals in order to win. Also, you need a spread. You've noticed probably that there was a spread. That's right, if you get the minimum number of goals, but you don't beat the spread, you still lose. Isn't that wonderful? Ugh. Yeah, it's a real, like, just penalizing the player repeatedly. Pain after pain after pain. Life sucks! That's right, game. So here we are in Life Sucks.
It's a great name for a stage.
I believe that this mode has started me with some special weapons here. Oh, that must be why it's called Life Sucks, because I start with the sucking power-up. Well, that's kind of cool. And yeah, there's a lot of stuff that is in this game, other than those asshole grappling hook things. There are some other things in the stages. As you can see, there is this pylon, which I think rotates on its own, so that depending on the side that you're on, it speeds you up, or you can't pile on it for too long. Oh, I think I just got pulled by a sucking weapon or something, because...
How does that weapon work? Like, how do you activate your special weapons? Is it just the normal grappling hook
when
button?
you pull things, it just does, is my answer. You know, it just does what it does. Ooh, is that dynamite on the thing? I'm gonna check that out. Let's try and get the dynamite. Ah, is that an enemy flying off his bike? I have no idea. Like, just flew past. The probe. Okay, it's called the probe. Let's try and hit someone with the probe. This can only end well. Didn't really mention the music. Very unique soundtrack. Famous for having
It's surf rock, isn't it?
Yeah, it's surf
I remember
rock.
trying this game once.
Yeah, it's very, very fun, very energetic surf rock. Absolutely wonderful choice for the game's soundtrack. Probably didn't do it any favors in terms of actual popularity, because it's not hardcore metal or, like, chippy, toony stuff. Although they didn't really want chippy tunes in 1996.
Techno
but...
was the big thing at the time, too, I'm pretty sure.
What was the big thing, sorry?
Techno.
Yeah, it wasn't techno, so I'm sure it didn't actually do the game any favors. But it does mean that the game has a gorgeous soundtrack for modern players. Really nice.
What does the probe do exactly?
I think I gotta hit an enemy with it to find out. I think the claw does extra
what
You're
does
having
damage.
no such
Line
luck.
do?
Or the
You can
actually
get
the
that
claw
one,
holds
too.
enemies longer, I believe, is what happens. The claw holds better. I got a guy with the probe. Still not sure what it does. But oh, it takes her? Brar? Oh. Okay.
It steals their underwear. I
That's-
see what it's doing.
That's wonderful.
Classy.
That's tremendous. And yes, there are male and female pilots. I believe
okay.
the only difference is the female pilots do have noticeable like memories that they exist. They're just triangles and whatever. Because
So the probe lives up to its name then, huh? Because it's doing some probing, essentially.
eat your heart out, Saints Row 4.
What does the shrinker line do?
The what line? Sorry.
Shrinker line. You keep picking it up.
The trigger line. Oh, do you mean?
Shrinker line.
Because I get the trip line, which is just me knocking them off their bike.
He said shrinker. Like,
Oh, shrinker.
You know, like from-
right.
Yeah.
The shrinker is kind of a power down, actually. I say kind of, but the shrinker pulls objects towards you. It shrinks.
Oh.
Yes, so the shrinker is not necessarily a good thing, but it does mean that you can propel things faster. I believe is the benefit of the shrinker. Is if you pull an enemy and then you let them get really spun around you, then you press the let go, it'll fling them much further, which can do better damage. I think is the benefit of the shrinker.
Okay, I noticed in the center of this map there are those gates. What do those
Yes,
do
the
when you fly
gates.
through them?
Yes, there are gates. The gates are another form of power-up, but they're not usually power-ups. That's why I don't tend to fly through them. They can do things like cool down your engine, but they also do some things that are not so good. So I will try and fly through them, so maybe we can actually get one of them to activate.
So they give you power downs as well as power ups, is what you're telling me?
Yeah, they what they can do is they can increase your temperature or do damage to you. And frankly, neither of those things are good enough to be worth, you know, messing around with trying to fly through these. Pretty difficult to get into portals. Because they're usually angled just right that you can't just fly into them. Like you can see in these ones, I have to effectively turn around, get into the center of the map. Oh, the sucker can stick on walls. That's what it does. That makes sense. And these things only activate sometimes, and you have to be flying through them when they're active in order for them to work. So it is a lot of stuffing around to get one of these to work. That one was coolant, so that one decreases my temperature, and you can see little bits of water fly off me, and my temperature goes down. So those ones,
That's kind of nice.
those ones are okay, but some of them are not. Some of them are crap. Ha! He pulled himself off his own bike. What an idiot. Come on. Oh no, I got grabbed. Well, that's bad. This is not good. I mean, this is, you've seen, this is the vast majority of the game, I think, you know. But that makes sense, you know, it's a pseudo-future sport racing, war, deathmatch style game. It's not gonna have, like, there's not gonna be any, like, secret level finishing things. It's just the game, really. You get like your score and different attacks and different things that you can do, reward you with different scores. I'm not quite sure how the scoring system works, to be honest, because sometimes it awards different amount of points for different actions, and I have no idea how it determines what one action is worth. It just, honestly, it seems pretty arbitrary. Maybe it's a multiplier that's invisible, and if you do actions in a row, it increases the point value of those actions. But I haven't been able to work out what, if anything, the scoring system functions. I mean, the highest amount of points that you can get, I think, is by tying one racer to another racer. That will get you massive points. I think you get about 5,000 for that, so that's a pretty dense bit of point. that is Rocket Jockey. I really do like this game, even though it has some serious, like, asshole problems with it.
It's definitely a neat concept, and the thing I like about it is that it's one of those sort of games that, if it existed today, it'd probably be bogged down with too many extraneous elements like RPG mechanics and like a shop system. I like that it's just, it is what it is, and it doesn't try to be anything else. It's a really weird pseudo racing slash deathmatch slash rockety thing with grappling hooks. But it works. It's like they actually thought about it and they actually made the mechanics make sense and actually function within the game's world and universe. And it's fun. It looks a lot of fun. It's very fast moving, so...
Yeah, if you don't have a problem with kind of what you just saw just happening just then, getting dragged around for like 1 billion hours, like, there are definitely issues with the game, but the mechanics are rock solid and it works really well. Amazingly impressive that they shot this one out of the gate that works so well. It's so strong. Everything about the actual elements themselves are really well done. It's just actually beating...
Yeah, it's got a really great concept. It doesn't look terribly hard to learn. It's unique.
Yeah, no, it's
probably really good multiplayer.
Probably good. That's the thing. Multiplayer means that there's no AI dickery, and all the little foibles with the AI are the things that cause the issues. The way that the game is basically, they didn't want you to beat it in like an evening, so they made sure that every stage past the first couple are kind of increasingly have more frustrating obstacles and more restrictive time limits. So it's quite difficult to actually physically get through a set of stages, so it can get very frustrating. And there's another. Let's do Referee's Revenge. Oh, I see. I see what this stage is. You don't start on your bike in the last level of the game.
That's kind of clever.
It's called Referee's Revenge. Oh, and they have special black referee bikes, so I guess if you manage to get them, you probably get their bike. Yeah, you can see me. I'll keep playing this stage. We'll just play this stage and see if I can manage to get one of these referees off one of their bikes. Because I can't imagine I'll pull it off, but you can see how you're supposed to actually do it. Maybe they'll accidentally pull themselves off their own bike. Oh, their bikes have got like these chains on them too. Very rough. Help. I got off. That's okay. But yeah, I'll probably die. And yeah, like, this game's physics stuff is pretty impressive, you know, like, it can have two different agents acting with different forces and velocities tied together with a singular constraint. I think you can even get a third constraint and have, like, 3 things, sort of. You can see it right now. I'm dead, but the referee is tied to one of the referees, and then I'm tied to the other referee, and they're all bouncing around in real time. It's pretty damn cool.
That's kind of dickish. Referees aren't supposed to do that. Although I assume if you can knock them off their bike, you can unlock that bike, and it's probably really good.
Yes. We'll just keep playing this level for a bit, see if anything else happens. But it's a 3-engine bike. I think this might be the only 3-engine bike in the game. The engines, I think, are just stylistically a thing, but it's just a style. As you can see, you need 1,000 points to win on this stage, so presumably you just need to get one off a bike and kill him. But yeah, like, I would say that the game has a little bit of age in its, the presentation is not aged too well. I mean, the individual characters look nice, the bikes look great. I love the designs of the bikes in this game, or the rockets, they just look tremendously cool. But the, background and the tiling on the ground is, well, definitely aged. Especially this brown one. This brown one is atrocious.
Which is pretty typical of the era. A lot of games had a texture pretty much that looked like vomit or poop or something.
Yeah, this is like the
and this is leaning
texture.
pretty towards both of those things.
And yeah, the walls of the arena are not particularly interesting. They tried their best, they put these ads on them, but otherwise they're just these blocky little tiles that are not particularly nice looking.
I think it helps, though, that the background, like the background tiles, the metal, whatever you want to call it, the metal plates, aren't that distinct, because otherwise it'd probably be very hard to visually read anything. Like, you'll notice you can instantly pick out the pylons and other racers with that, you know, on that beige background.
Yeah, no, it's
so much more colorful.
A good choice. The only real problems are, I think there's literally only one background? I haven't noticed a different skybox. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, I think the skybox is always the same.
They have changed the color.
It's that
on
really
it,
weird mountain range or whatever.
Yeah, it's just this mountain range. I feel like maybe a cityscape or something would have been really nice, just for a little bit of a variation, to set things apart. Can't remember. There might have been a cityscape, but I don't think I've accidentally gotten one. I'm dead again.
You know what this game reminds me of, looking at it now? Slipstream 5000, I think it was.
Okay.
That racing game.
It reminds me, there are a couple of racing games
GOG.
that have like the similar pylon sort of style and the arena style. They do exist. They're just, yeah. This is